Wonderful. And we are live. Welcome back to Aussies Taking Over the NBA. It is a Tuesday night, the 29th of September. It's nearly October, and we're about to see some finals actions finally this season. The bubble has come to a culmination. We're going to talk about the playoffs in a preview of the Lakers Heat. We're going to talk about the wash-up of the Lakers series with the Nuggets, and then Miami's pretty clinical display against the Celtics to finish that out, close that out.
For Lostradamus, I picked that series, and I picked every game, and I picked who would win each game, and I didn't bet on it.
Well, that's all right. If you bet on it, it wouldn't happen. So that's my philosophy. And we'll start the show out talking about Doc Rivers, obviously, who's fired. There's a little link with Philly in there, so we'll have a quick chat about that to start out. But as always, like and subscribe on YouTube, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, Podcast Addict, Spotify. And now we are on Spotify, so if Spotify is your preferred platform, go over there and have a quick look and a like and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, also 5-star rating and review. That helps get us out there and get us to more ears and more eyes. Now, Doc, diagnosis. Doc is out.
He's out. His medical license has been terminated.
Yeah. It's it comes as a bit of a shock today. The news broke.
I don't know if it's a shock. You have to think about his playoffs history, the teams that he's been given, and the expectations around the teams that he's been given. 7 years with the Clippers. Don't think he's been in a conference final. He's had some, super teams. I think Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, that kind of primed those guys, and that didn't work. Had a couple of cracks at that, and so there was a lot of expectations around this super team this year, and for the most part, we had the same expectations, but didn't eventuate, and he's paid the ultimate price. Mind you, one thing we were sort of talking about today was just the lack of new blood talent pool in this NBA. It just seems like the head coaches just kind of rotate. It's just we'll just rotate into this squad, or they just rotate to an assistant coach, and then I'm going to rotate back to head coach. There's been no new ideas, and I don't think Doc plays a particularly superior style of basketball.
It's not iconic, is it?
No. It's kind of not. It's kind of not even it's not unique. It's just kind of he just plays every one position. He gets some goon happening. End of coaching.
It's and sort of dialing up some offense, but I think one of the really big red flags was just that wash up of that series. You know what I mean? It's you got to go all the way back to the start of the season. Big expectations. They have a pretty decent season, 49-23, second in the Western Conference, a disrupted season. But in that series, I think it really turned into watching Doc and just going, you don't have an answer for this. You need to make the next move. You need to answer this Denver. Doc, what's good? You need to, and you're out now. And that was a real red flag. After the wash up of that series, and then you saw him after in the post game just going, we fought hard, and it just wasn't our time, et cetera, et cetera. And you're just what? You're not even upset or fucking hell. And I would,
as a man too comfortable.
I would just wonder how much of that is in there. I wonder how much of that is the pressure. 49-23 is not a bad season. They obviously have a really good team in a really good couple of players, really, in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And then some up and coming guys. I really thought they could have just run it back next season. At the culmination of that going out of the series, I thought that. Well, you give him one more year. Surely you run it back, you give him one more year. He's at least earned a chance to, gel the team together in the offseason and go at it again. But at the same time, I was still sitting there kind of going, yeah, but this style isn't going to take, he's not going to take these guys anywhere. It's going to be a real sort of, he's going to break the mold, break the sort of fourth wall to be winning a championship with this lot.
Yeah.
Did it feel that way? I was still a bit run it back, but at the same time, I'm but Doc's not going to take you to the fucking finals.
I don't even think it's. We spoke about this at length, I think, during the playoffs, and you've got a team that's been thrown together. It's not the same core that started last year. Yeah, you've got a couple of the same players, but the core's really been changed around Kawhi and Paul George, and you haven't got a facilitative point guard. You've just got a bit of a goon bag. You don't really have a starting center. You've got a bit of a guy who's all bark and no bite in Montrezl Harrell. Lou Williams didn't have a great series. Kawhi didn't have a great, 3 games that Denver came back in. So, I mean, these kind of things aren't really coaching faults. You know what I mean? Like the one coaching fault that, a lot of coaches had faulted with against Denver is that they just could not protect the pick and roll. The Jamal Murray pick and roll. They just couldn't protect it. And so that's probably the only coaching error that, he really made in terms of, all right, you need to change this up, especially when they came back to 3-3. Just that game 7, just like they're doing the same thing, you're just not doing anything about it. So
it was kind of the same thing was happening in those games. It's easy to kind of go, oh, Denver really pulled it out of the fire. They made shots. They kind of made plays, et cetera, et cetera. But you were watching, like I watched all 3 of those games that they came back, and you were just like, they're doing the same thing. They kind of get a lead, and then they just go to Jokic and Murray pick and roll. Murray's getting shots off the dribble. And we had said at the start of that series, it's just like Murray's going to be driving into the two of the best defenders in the conference in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They're not going to be able to do that. And then all Murray had to do really was just go, all right, I'll just run my own kind of, come off a screen and not drive in and just shoot. And he was knocking them down. And they were kind of waiting for him to drive in, and he wasn't really doing that. And then when he was doing that, like Kawhi was kind of struggling a little bit on screens and to kind of keep up. And credit to Murray and Jokic, man, they schooled them. But I don't know, I still think, Doc Rivers, while being a part of that old mold, that old school coach, like, he's not part of the new wave NBA at the moment. I think really the only one really of the old school that's part of a new wave of the NBA really is Kerr, who's created that system where, it's got everything. It's got, the Spurs kind of old school offense, yet done in a modern way. Whereas I wasn't seeing that with Doc Rivers.
No.
And
this is the problem with, and this seems to be the problem with superstars in teams and not a superstar team. When you look at Kawhi in Toronto, yeah, Kawhi was the piece that fulfilled that team, but that team was already pretty well coached, and there was some crazy things, and there was some good plays, and they made the Gasol trade, and there was the right pieces for that, and they pretty much played a depleted Golden State Warriors. So that was that as well. But you come into this Clippers team, and Paul George has never really been a playoff specialist. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell really haven't been tested in the postseason. And you came up against the magic of the Joker, man. Jokic is phenomenal. He's unguardable when he's shooting because he has such a high release.
And unique too.
And unique, and some of the passing aspects, and the fact that Denver just have a young team who've played together for a few years. I mean, this isn't magic. Like, you just get a core of guys that play together for 5 or 6 years and watch them get better every year, and just add one. All right, we know Paul Millsap's getting older. We probably need to recruit a good power forward into that starting position, or Jeremy Grant's going to be unrestricted free agent. He's going to go and get 16 million a year. All right, Michael Porter Jr. is just going to slot nicely into that position, and we'll go and try and draft a good small forward who can score the ball. Okay, let's get these guys together for another year. And teams just seem to want to blow it up really quickly, unless there is really a reason. I think in Philly, you got to blow that shit up. That shit is just gross. But well, you know what I mean? Like, it's the little coaching maneuvers. And man, how many times the Clippers just blown it up in the last, like the Blake Griffin trade,
Griffin just Chris Paul, and
it's just it's just Steve Ballmer in a nutshell, man. It's just like no.
Yeah, it feels a bit like corporation-y, you know what I mean? Or hire new executives, we'll get these executives and these CEOs type of thing.
It feels like a bad sales company. You know what I mean? Oh, they didn't hit budget this year. Get rid of him. You know, get rid of him.
We
Get
need
some
fresh
new blood in
We
here.
need new blood. And maybe
Really?
this decision is part of that. Like I had said to you at the start, you know,
Yeah.
my little half-baked theory is maybe Steve Ballmer was worried maybe about Ty Lue going for interviews, and he was just like, well, I'll fire Doc, and, you know, that'll show Ty Lue. I would not be surprised if, you know, it turns around in a couple of days and it's just, and Tyrone Lue is, you know, unveiled as the next coach. And it's hard to kind of pick the dynamic of that Clippers team. Like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both kind of really sort of low-key stars. They're not, you know, leaders that lead by, you know, disseminating what they do on the basketball court out to the fans. You know, like they just play and their game does the talking. And, you know, quietly Paul George, bit cursed a little bit maybe.
I don't think cursed. I just think that he's not what he's led himself and led the public to believe. Like, he's been in enough teams now. He's been in the league long enough to really, you know, be that one team superstar. He's not. Couldn't do it with Russ and Anthony. Couldn't do it with Kawhi. Couldn't do it in Indiana. When are we going to see him? What is he, like 30 now? 29, 30? When are we going to see him actually do something? And it seems to be that his mental acuity for the game is tied to, and there's been a lot of people that have come out saying he has a very low basketball IQ. Like, he's a good skilled player, but he's not got a high basketball IQ. When is his mental acuity going to, because, you know, basketball is also a mindset game. You know, this whole thing of, oh, you know, I was going to leave the bubble because I was having mental health issues. No, you're just in a shooting slump and you didn't do anything to kick yourself out of it. And then all of a sudden you start shooting. I was like, oh, I'm fine now. It's kind of like that's the mental aspect of the game. And I just don't think that he's got the high enough IQ in that respect to ever take a team past what the next best superstar can do. And that team really is centered around Kawhi. I don't foresee. I just don't know the players on the market and what the Clippers have to offer to get those players.
Yeah.
Like, they've got a couple unrestricted free agents. You know, no one's going to take Patrick Beverley for anything. You know,
and he's kind of a like a self-depreciating player too. Like, you talk yourself into him being good because of all that hustle and goon. But then at the end of the day, you're just kind of like, yeah, but he's not really that tier that can, you know, knit in with your two other stars in Kawhi and Paul George. Like, just on Paul George, I think he can be a great player on a team that wins a championship, but he's going to be the side guy. Yes. And I feel like he doesn't accept that he's the side guy. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, if he was to go, you know what, I'm the side guy and I'll just sit in behind Kawhi Leonard. But I feel like he wants to be the guy, and he's just time after time he's let himself down. Like, I was just looking back through, look at his coaches. Doc Rivers, not a great coach. Billy Donovan at OKC, not an elite tier coach. Then you go back to Nate McMillan and Vogel. Back in the, like, kind of, you know, 6-7 years ago, Vogel was still not that elite kind of coach. They're all top coaches, but they're not that elite level guy like a Pop or a Kerr or someone like that, or Nurse. Or so I wonder, like, how much of it, I guess, is coaching, and to put him in this, like, to keep him in this Clippers team and expect him to not do the same thing in the playoffs next season. I don't know. I would be looking at that just going, we need to solve this as an equation. Whether it's bringing in some supplementary players or bringing in a coach that can get something out of Paul George. But because you know what Kawhi is going to bring you, and your whole ethos at a Clippers franchise with Kawhi Leonard is going to be, we just have to put this guy into positions where he is really effective and limit the fact that he has that leg injury and make sure he doesn't just destroy his body. Like, they're two pretty easy solvable equations. It's not like Philly where you're looking at that team just going, shit, like this, you know, we've got heaps of things to solve here. Like, the Clippers still have have a pretty solid core to go again next season. That's why I sort of thought they would keep Doc anyway. But
what do the Clippers need? They need someone who...
A center, really.
They need a center, but they also need a facilitate first point guard. Because Patrick Beverley can't really pass the ball. He can't really score the ball. He's just known for his hustle and goon, right? So, you know, getting in players' faces. Well, they need someone that can facilitate, because 60% of your points on any given night are going to be scored by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So you don't need to be taking away from that fact, but you need someone who can get them open, get the passing, and bring other guys into the fray. I just don't think Patrick Beverley does it. I don't think Lou Williams does it. Lou Williams is more like an off-ball kind of scoring two guard as opposed to anything that's a facilitator.
Mm.
He doesn't really fit in that team either now because he's always been six man and always been actually the primary scorer of that team coming off the bench. But then he comes on the floor and then the other guys fail to get involved in it because they're all just ball hogs.
He kind of gets in the way of what Paul George is,
Exactly. They're the same player. So it's kind of like, well, you need to trade him for something and get some facilitation going. I actually think Matthew Dellavedova fit quite nicely on this team, running a backup unit with Paul George, good defender, he's not going to take a volume of shots, can pass the ball effectively, and gets involved in everything.
Goon Brothers style with Pat Beverley.
Well, Goon Brothers, but you wouldn't want Pat Beverley. You wouldn't want two of them there. You'd want one. You want one that could facilitate, and Dellavedova can do that. So that would be a cheap pickup that they could get on their team tomorrow very easily.
A
next to nothing.
Schroeder pickup maybe. They've got like their cap's hamstrung. They've got no picks. Like they're in
exactly. That's what I mean.
Hole.
Like they're in a serious hole and they can't really do anything. So what they have to do is either draft smart. I think they've got a couple of second rounds. Pick up someone from the G League that is worth a damn, or get some little cheap unrestricted agents that fit their style of play. And I think Dellavedova does that. I think that they probably need to get Lou Williams and I think Harrell. If Harrell leaves, it gives them flexibility. If cap space, it gives them maybe they can sign a guy. But they need to take that, get rid of Beverly, bring in a facilitator, and maybe sign one more shooter. I don't really see you picking up any kind of center for any decent price unless DeMarcus Cousins is in the kind of realm of $2.5 million.
So that's still again, that's like they need things that work on this team. I don't know, DeMarcus Cousins would be a bit of a roll of dice. Like they really need a center that can go, I am better than Zubats and Harrell, and I'm taking like the starter role. And Zubats and Harrell become supplementary players. They need a point guard that's I'm better than Beverly and Reggie Jackson. I'm going to take the point guard role, and those two guys, we can shuffle them around and they can come off the bench. That way you get a bit more out of Lou Williams. You can get a little bit more out of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You have a bit more flexibility on that roster. Like they've got two good players, but the rest of the starters are just kind of low level. Well,
this is the funny thing, right? So all the way through the season, Baines was linked to Clippers, right? There was always going to be a trade option. Bainesy going to the Clippers opens up, low key, can shoot the ball, doesn't take up a lot of, can let Kawhi Leonard and Paul George work inside, can let, guys get inside the paint, but can shoot the ball and can kind of, guard as well, would be able to take on something like a LeBron, a Lakers team or a Nuggets team. He's big enough to because fucking Joker just backs anyone down now. Like he's pretty strong, even though he's a bag of potatoes.
Yeah.
Low key need a big guy like that. So I think there's some market. It's going to be interesting what moves they make in the off season.
This has kind of lit a fire under what they have to do now, though. I feel like it's not just going to be Doc and the guys, we're back, we'll put a few pieces here. This kind of makes it now, takes the focus off the fact that they have to rebuild this team with a new coach, new system, new everything. I think, I don't know, it's a bit of a roll the dice, but two of the best players in the league, I guess, or Kawhi obviously coming back for his second season. Plus you got them leaving hanging over your head as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary. It's a pretty scary situation. But yeah, that news caught us by surprise. What do you think possible destinations for Doc Rivers?
Probably Pels.
Pels?
Yeah, I think Pels. Young guys, mobile, not there's not too many egos down there that are seated down there, you know what I mean? Like it's not an egocentric team. Chance to work with Zion Williams. Yeah, I'd say probably Pels would make the most sense in that role.
Does he go to like a middle tier / top tier team still?
No, Pels.
Do you feel like?
I
don't know if I look at him now and I kind of feels a bit lame duck. The Rockets? Ooh, interesting. Back with Harden. Back with Harden. Was he ever with Harden? But I don't know, man. I look at him and I'm kind of like old school lame duck.
Yeah.
Does he go to a building team and build something again to be again just a second round playoffs again?
But that's the Pelicans. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Houston, it doesn't really make sense. Philly, that's everyone else is pretty much locked in. Luke Walton's still at the Sacramento Kings. He probably would have coached the Kings quite well. I think that his style could come in and potentially work well in the Kings. But yeah, I not 100% sure, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of happens in the next month or two, because really everyone's going to have to make decisions in the next 2 months if they're going to target a January start date for the season.
Except Chicago, because they've already picked up Billy Donovan.
Well, yeah, Billy Donovan, but there's some other things. Anthony Davis is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season.
But surely he re-signs with the Lakers.
I think he goes to Chicago.
Anthony Davis is going to Chicago?
My pick, yes. He wins a ring, he goes to Chicago. He doesn't win a ring, he stays in.
Isn't he from LA though? I thought he was from LA. Yeah, no.
I don't know. Look it up.
I'm looking it up now. Welcome to Aussies looking up things on Wikipedia. He is from Chicago. Good call. There you go. I don't know why I thought he was from LA. It's weird.
I know it's Chicago could be kind of weird team. Billy Donovan, I think, better coach. Zach LaVine, good player. They could, Zach LaVine, small ball, kind of 2-3. Anthony Davis can play the 4 there. I think that's, unfortunately, at the Lakers, he gets stuck on the 5 a little bit too much. And
I don't think he really wants to play center, but it's so deadly with him at center.
That's it. So I think he gets more of what he wants to play with. And you got to think about an aging LeBron. Like, what do you do? Anthony Davis is 28. Does he play with LeBron till he's 40? Or does he go, all right, this is it. I'll give you a season, and then I'm out. You know what I mean? So
I kind of feel he's not the the alpha star that does that.
I do.
He kind of feels like a hanger-on type guy.
I don't think so. I think he wasn't in New Orleans. Like, he was the kind of the dictating what was going on in New Orleans, and
but maybe by virtue of him being there for a long time. Like,
yeah,
I feel like he's a brave new world. I need something comfortable type guy.
Well, this is the thing though, is that his first choice of trade destination was Boston. It wasn't the Lakers, even though he knew that LeBron was trying to get him for 2 seasons.
I have a feeling that he didn't want to go to Boston. But you are right on the Chicago, so I'm just going to check that. Davis didn't want to go to Boston. I was listening to something today, and they were saying he didn't want to go to Boston. Doesn't want to go to Boston. But that's just message boards, so it might be wrong.
Yeah, that's podcast talk. Anyway,
it's Doc, man. I don't know. I feel like he's just now he's just going to be in a cellar dweller team and just coast out of the league. Like, I don't know. I don't see him going to a team and being like, you know what, revisiting that Boston Magic, and we're going to go to a title. Like,
yeah.
Philly? Philly? Little Philly?
No, I'm pretty sure they got their heart set on D'Antoni.
D'Antoni? Yeah, D'Antoni's the front runner. And then Ty Lue, like I was saying, I heard today, is having an interview tomorrow, or today it is for them there. Ty Lue, I don't know. D'Antoni, I think I would take over Ty Lue and Doc Rivers. Ty Lue's kind of an unknown nothing type of thing.
Well, he won a championship in. Did he win a championship? He won a championship in Cleveland, didn't he?
Yeah, he won that one, taking over from David Blatt, but then just got spit roasted for the next couple of games. Seasons.
No, sorry, he didn't win the championship. He took them to the finals.
No, he took over from David Blatt, and that was the one they won.
Okay.
Yeah, so he won that. Like, it's kind of fake champion. I don't want to discredit him, but a bit of a fake championship. And then he just got spit roasted the next 3 years against the Warriors. Got them all the way there again, but that's where I looked at that and just went, like, well, that's a pedigree. Like, it's a measurement of his pedigree there. Him winning that championship off the back of David Blatt getting fired isn't, to me, what you look at and go, you know what, that's championship pedigree right there as a coach. No. I kind of look at the rest of that and just go, he just got destroyed by the Warriors, like, in two of their worst losses in that little run. I think it was a 4-1 and a 4-zip. So yeah, we'll keep an ear out. We'll keep an eye out for Philly, because I think I'm talking myself into D'Antoni, man. Super fast. Ben Simmons, just let it fly. Simmons, just shoot some threes, man. Like, get a stick out and be like, shoot some threes.
it works for Embiid better because he doesn't have to post up all the time.
Yeah, it's good. Get him out of the
Just
way.
shoot threes. Yeah,
Get him out of
shoot
the
threes.
way on the
Because Simmons,
bench.
it makes Simmons. Well, it would make Simmons the one who is getting to the basket more and Embiid more out and not playing post up the whole time.
I don't know.
Five
Like,
out.
I kind of want to see Embiid post up more, but I don't want to see a team that goes, you need to post up more. Like, let's get this guy with the ball and posting up. Like, nah, I don't want to watch that. Like, I want to see Simmons shoot the ball, play fast, and then playing in transition just be devastating, super quick, Sacramento style with Jaeger. Dave Jaeger, maybe? Super fast?
I think that would really work, but it doesn't work with it worked 2 seasons ago when they had like the Reddicks, the Shamets, that kind of work. That's just like run for 40 minutes. But,
I want to see that.
Yeah,
but D'Antoni can kind of just play that. That's kind of that on steroids, I guess, as well.
Pretty much.
Let's move on to the Lakers closing it out over Denver. Last time we talked about it was 2-1, and I had a little bit of Denver. But the Lakers basically gone bang bang, closing out that series 4-1. It got to 3-1.
It got to 3-1. We thought, can they do it for a third time? But you know what? 18 games, man. 18 games in what, 2.5, 3 weeks? It's 3 weeks or 4 weeks. It's just nuts. It's too much. And credit to Denver. They played well. They came with something. They got something in that team. That team is going to be there for a long time. Knocking on the heels of the Lakers, the Clippers. Definitely a top 4 team for the next 5-6 years. Probably 1 or 2 pieces. They're probably one name player away, like a low key name player away from taking it there. I think Michael Porter Jr. is going to be an all-star in 3 seasons.
He had some big moments in that series against the Lakers, like where he hit shots and you were just like, "Oh, these guy can make shots. Like this is good, sweet."
Yeah.
Not necessarily the Nuggets are going to win, and this is great. Like, but at the same time, like, kind of stood up, puffed the chest out, and said, I can hit shots in big moments. And I was like, oh, this is good.
Can hit shots, gets rinsed on defense a little bit. Needs to work
just
that offseason.
Torched on defense. Like that's got what he's got to do in the offseason. He's got to go work with Ben Simmons and just get that all defensive team defense worked out, man. And he's going to be an absolutely devastating player.
Agreed.
So yeah, Jokic, man, that foul trouble was a bit sus in both those games, man.
A little bit sus. It just happens after the Lakers put in an official complaint to say LeBron's
I hate
not getting
that,
enough.
man. I fucking hated that. I was just like, don't, man. Like you are so far above this, man. Stop it. Like you are so far above this. You're in the bubble. You've got a lot of like all of this kind of social justice thing happening. Like, why are you complaining to the refs, man? And then for 2 games, like Jokic was just like, oh, a lot of bench Jokic in these 2 games. Like,
yeah, it's nothing sus about that. There's a narrative that's being formed, and I think it's definitely a LeBron. I mean, they haven't really come up against a team that's tested their willpower. I think Miami will test their willpower substantially. But yeah, they really haven't. I think Denver probably took it to them more than any other team. I think Portland was just a flash in the pan. We all knew that was going to end how it did. But I definitely think that that the Nuggets took it to them in all of those games, and some questionable calls down the end. Murray just being fouled.
Who?
All the time. Murray just being fouled.
He got fouled a lot. And admittedly, in the game before they complained, like they did get fouled, like LeBron wasn't really getting calls. But it's so hard with a dude who's, 260, fast. The amount of times he'll finish and get fouled and it just looks normal. Like you're just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then you go back on the replay and he just gets hacked. Because he just doesn't move, man. Like he just goes through contact like it doesn't seem to affect him. And sometimes I can get that, but admittedly there were a few dodgy calls in that game game 3 rather. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, you're above this, man. Come on, don't complain about this. And then it didn't coincide with the amount that Jokic would just get these shitty foul calls on him and have to sit. And
Yeah.
admittedly, like he took that well. Like he just went, all right, I'm off. Fair enough. Like I'd have been blowing up hard, like seeing him get a technical or something like that. Because we saw Dwight come off the bench with just the most ridiculous goon, to the point where you're just like, just settle down, dude. Like you're a third string guy, just that's like lucky to be on this team. Like stop it. Like they obviously were like, go out there and try and goon Jokic. And okay, fair enough. That's that's a chalkboard
That's
point.
a tactic, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And admittedly, Jokic didn't back down and he took it. But then in the game after that, like Dwight actually played well. And you're just like, can you just do this, Dwight? Like, you don't need the goon. Like you actually had a good game without the stupid goon. Like we don't need this. And then there was a little bit in the closeout game, just a tiny bit. But at the same time, I think they just had weapons to throw at Jokic. They were just like, have Davis, have Dwight, okay, you can feast on JaVale every time JaVale was out there. He just cooked him. But every time they threw Dwight at him, man, he struggled. And they just ran out of gas. And I'm, at the same time, still heaps proud of Denver. Like, I obviously wasn't rooting for him. It doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter who won that series. But at the same time, I was like, fucking low key, man. Be super proud of that effort and then go, right, let's get better next year because I think we can even be better and make the finals and possibly win the whole thing.
Like I said, they're probably one good piece away. Like, but not even like, one good piece. And then, I think it's just one good piece. I think Paul Millsap's probably just getting a little bit old, a little bit slow, and a decent power forward signing, Tobias Harris.
Take Harris.
Take Tobias Harris.
And Horford.
No, Horford.
For Jokic.
I don't. Embiid can play power forward.
That'd be crazy. Jokic and Embiid.
Just get a team of centers. I wonder if that would ever work.
Yeah, Philly hires D'Antoni and they just go into orbit for size. They got Jokic, Capella, starting Ben Simmons, Jokic, Capella, Embiid, and Horford. But what do you think about LeBron's closeout of that series? Like, I thought that was a huge difference maker too. Like, there was that game 5 where everyone's like, "This is weird, man. What's wrong with LeBron? He looks tired. Like, is he struggling?" And Davis, pretty much closed out game 5 for them. He didn't hit like the winner like in game 2 game 2, but he kind of closed out, and everyone's just like, "What's up with LeBron, man? He looks tired." And then in game 6, he just comes out and just like, bam, bam, bam. Like, this is what I'm about.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, veteran move.
It's amazing for 15 seasons in, isn't it?
I know. It was so clutch too. I was just like, damn, like such a stomp the neck, like last 4 minutes of that game. Denver couldn't score. Murray was hobbled. Jokic was in foul trouble. And yeah, Lakers moving on to the finals, and that was kind of that. Like, did it feel closer than a 4-1?
Yeah, it did. It felt like it probably should have gone 4-2. Just some really bad Plumleeing, probably for game 2.
Yeah.
Plumlee. Yes, but yeah, that's it. If Joker gets into foul trouble, that team is just because Plumlee is not a high IQ basketball player.
They kind of got to like weasel in a lot of Millsap and Grant, and just quietly
Thon makers are kind of restricted. That actually might not be a bad idea.
I'd be in. How good would that be? And then they go to the finals next year and we get to watch it. That'd be sick. Pick him up, Denver. Pick him up.
All right, let's go into this Boston-Miami series because, like I said, Balokstradamus picked this series game by game.
Gloat it up.
Yeah, I just think that Kemba Walker is not a championship point guard. And
will he ever grow into that? Like, that's the feeling I got.
He's smaller than me. He's 5'10". Like, when's the last time a 5'10" point guard took you to a championship? You know what I mean? Like, Miami, you've got, Tyler Hero's been nuts. Duncan Robinson's been solid. Bam Adebayo had, that game 6, he was just...
That was just nuts, man. And just a beast. How much, like, in the ebb and flow of the series and in the framework of that series, we talked about a lot of the Spo versus Stevens framework. How much did that just torch them, him just destroying Tice? and you were like, oh shit, like, Tice just can't keep up with him. They can't get any offense going because basically his defense is matching their offense, but at the same time he's giving them this offensive push. And you were kind of like, oh, that's the difference in this series. Like, they don't have another guy has the ability, that Tice is at. Like, Tice obviously is a kind of tier below Adebayo. But at the same time, like, Adebayo's not like the top tier. Like, he was growing in that series into being something that, like that level that he played at. Like, you weren't looking at him just going, you know what, he's going to give you that type of performance. But at the same time, like, Celtics didn't have a foil to kind of play around that. And then the zone thing, man, they really struggled to sort, and that was a bit of a worry, man. That kind of went, Stevens, like, what are you doing? What's going on, man? And a lot of Marcus Smart, dude. Jesus.
A lot of Marcus Smart, and the Celtics bench depth, and Hayward hasn't been.
Oh yeah, he was good on that comeback game, and then the rest of the games was just like.
For a guy that's 27 million or 30 million a season, he hasn't really lived up to the expectation, has he?
He's not alpha though. Like,
he's not alpha. I think that honestly, we could see a swap between Oladipo and Hayward, and that would be interesting. That would be Oladipo to the Celtics for Hayward. I think that would be a good trade, potentially sign and trade, because I think Oladipo is an unrestricted free agent. They're still in discussions, a sign and trade where that would make sense, I think, for both teams. I think, the Pacers obviously need to get some sort of asset for Oladipo leaving. I think, Hayward's probably the only asset on the free market that they're going to be able to kind of trade for that's going to make sense in their roster. But that's really what needs to happen. I think that they probably need to get someone better than Tice. Tice is a fantastic backup center, and on any team, I think in a system he works well, and in Brad Stevens' system he works well. But I think, if the Celtics are going to take that Eastern Conference final and get to the playoffs, that you need to be signing someone who is elite.
That was really like a big difference.
Yeah, and in that series, I think that was a big difference. And I think Iggy as well. I mean, Iggy can just come in and play some defense and lock some guys down for periods, and that's it. But
crazy shooting in that game 6, though. I think he hit like 5 threes. Where he's just like, whoa, what? Iggy 5 threes? What the fuck?
Hasn't done anything for all the playoffs and then hits 5 threes. The Celtics, are a little bit away. I think that they had a terrific season. Their stars are still young. Their team's still young. I think it's hard to go all in on Kemba Walker as a point guard. I've always said that. He didn't really do anything at Charlotte, so why would you expect anything different?
I think admirable. Like, he had an admirable series where you just go, there are limitations to your game, but your attitude was good, admirably. You acquitted yourself well. I just don't look at him and go, you know what, he's going to go to another level with this team and they're going to go somewhere. Like, I just look at that and just go, oh, I don't.
They're always going to be a top 3 Eastern Conference team when he's at the helm. Don't get me wrong, but how do you go up? Obviously, he's on a contract, so we can't move that piece. What piece do we need? Well, we need a center. We need to relegate Tice. I think, Tice to backup center. I think Kanter's probably.
Oh, cut.
Yeah.
Waved.
Yeah, not the greatest.
They need a center, really. They need that player. And somebody that can at least kind of hide Kemba as well. Like, in the flow of a game, you can't play that small ball with him is just a bit too small. Like, you kind of need to be able to defend with 5 on the court and a center and Kemba but while hiding the fact that Kemba's not, an oversized point guard. And then if you look at Smart, Jalen, and Tatum, like, that's a good crew of sizable guys, but it doesn't have the star quality. You know what I mean?
I think it'll be there. I think probably Smart's hit his peak. He's been all defense or second team all defense a number of years. I think that really they went all in Kemba. I think if they can trade Hayward for Oladipo, I think that adds another level to their game, gives them that 6 man on the roster. Because Hayward is not really a defensive specialist.
Played 32 minutes in that game.
Yeah, played a lot, just not really adding any kind of value for my mind, and hasn't really all series or all playoffs. There could be some other things that they can pick up from some teams that are rebuilding or wanting to get picks. but I would struggle to see how the Celtics take, Miami or the Bucks going forward, because the Bucks are going to spend big. The Bucks are going to do something crazy this offseason. Miami's going to be a championship team next year in terms of where they're going to be at. Who knows what's happening in Philly, and who really cares what's happening in Indiana? But it's those four teams that you're really going to be worrying about in the Eastern Conference. And the Celtics really need to kind of get that centerpiece to negate the lack of a decent starting center. I don't think he needs to be a scoring specialist. I just think he needs to be more mobile.
Yeah, defensively just needs to be better and fit their system a little bit better. Yeah. So just on the Celtics before we move on to talking about Miami and then the finals preview. This series, right, they had that overtime game, though, or that Tatum dunk away from being one up in the series.
Yeah.
The next two games, they had leads in and they kind of blew them. And then the last game, they kind of had it, hey?
Yeah, they blew a 17-point lead.
I think in game...
That was game 2, because Marcus Smart was going nuts in the change room.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that was game 2.
I'm just going to check that on the series summary play-by-play. So I was trying to get at, like, they had a couple of, like, they almost won games in those series where they lost. And, like, a couple of, like, really bad sort of, they were down 17 Heat in game 2, down 17. A couple of, like, really strong positions where they just didn't get across the line.
No.
And that core of that team, I feel like this is going to affect them. You know what I mean? Like, they had these chances to win this series, and they have some guys there that it's going to affect. Like, they don't feel like a team that's just going to shrug that off and it's all right, we'll come back next year.
But hopefully they do shrug it off. I mean, Brad Stevens is not going anywhere, nor should he. You know what I mean? There's no reason why. They were pretty close. They've taken Miami pretty far in that 6-game series. I always thought Miami would take it. But they had a good shot at it, and they're not that far away from it. And they haven't been that far away for a number of years. So that, keep on that track. There's no reason to blow anything up now. You've gone all in on Kemba. He's probably the best available point guard in the league at this point in time, because that's the style of the Celtics play. It's small, it's quick, it's nimble. I just think that Tice is relegated to some sort of
off the bench
option. You swap Hayward for Oladipo to give you more scoring depth and a little bit better defensively.
And they kind of like looking down their roster. So who they played in that final game: Tatum, Brown, Smart, Walker, Tice started, and then Hayward off the bench, Grant Williams, Wanamaker, Canner, Robert Williams, and that's
it's not a deep bench.
Nah,
like you look at that Miami bench and it's just absurd. It's absurd.
Adebayo, Butler, Robinson, Dragic, Crowder as the starters, and Hero, Iguodala, Hill, Leonard. Like even the guys that didn't play, Leonard, Olynyk, Haslam's not going to play, Derek Jones, and Nunn. Like they're all pretty solid role players.
Well, Derek Jones Jr. has been a solid player throughout the year. He won't get much time in the postseason. Kendrick Nunn was their starting point guard for most of the year, and played really well and was close to Rookie of the Year. That team has a very bright future, and the fact that they've got the right guys in now, and this is happening now, there's a whiff of dynasty about it. Eric Spoelstra's a smart coach, man. I definitely see him out coaching Frank Vogel in the finals.
I do. Yeah, let's move just quickly on to that finals. Obviously, Lakers Heat. Expand on that. Expand on the coaching aspect.
Expand on the coaching aspect. I think that Eric Spoelstra has done some intelligent things. Going to a zone against the Lakers will work because it stops LeBron blowing by players. It stops that LeBron crazy drive. Do you feel like
they have the beef though?
Yeah,
to stop a Davis LeBron.
the Anthony Davis is the one that worries me. I think they've got the right, statistically the right players to stop LeBron in Iguodala and Butler, which are statistically the best two players to guard LeBron in the league. Is Iggy good enough to guard Anthony Davis for 6 games or 7 games? I don't think so. Is Bam Adebayo good enough to guard Davis? I don't think so. Davis for me is the corner piece of this operation. If Davis does get going, they win. If Davis doesn't get going, they lose. The other flip side is that KCP, Caruso, J.R. Smith have all just had turgid playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just non-existent. Rondo's been good in spates, can score, has been okay. Howard's been good. McGee can't start. I don't think you can play McGee in this series at all.
At all, yeah.
I don't think you can play him.
I'm pretty high on McGee, but I was like, after that, after Jokic just schooled him a couple of times, I was just like, get him out of there. Get done. Yeah. He's done.
I don't think you can play him that series at all. And you know what? They've got shooters out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like Hero's just starting to warm up. Robinson can get hot very quickly. Butler has been quiet, and that worries me. He's been quiet and not alpha. And I think that he's going to be definitely more alpha in this series, finally getting to a championship series. We're going to see more of Jimmy Butler being more vocal, being more aggressive. We're going to see Bam Adebayo playing better on the offense than a Howard, Howard or a McGee. That puts Anthony Davis at the center because that's really the only cancellation you've got, and Anthony Davis doesn't really like playing. I'm worried about the Lakers scoring depth. You can't have LeBron and you look down that Miami Heat roster, and outside of Tyler Hero's 37-point game, it's pretty spread in terms of the ability to score. Olynyk, had a couple of good runs in there with some points. Dragic has been good, although quieter in this series.
A lot of system buckets.
A lot of system buckets. Yeah, a lot of system buckets, and not a lot of system buckets in that Lakers team at all.
Nah, it's so my first point, like I wrote down a few points today. It's going to be role guys versus role guys, like you just touched on there. Green, Caruso, Rondo, Howard, Morris. Are they going to be as good as, for example, Hero, Crowder, Robinson, Olynyk, Iguodala? None. Are they going to be as good? No. I felt like there was a few scares, like a few bomb scares in that Denver series where you were like, what's your second unit doing? Like they can't score. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And that kind of worries me for the Lakers, like looking at that team, like if LeBron James can't get anything going, which we have seen obviously, like the pinnacle, like Iguodala comes back, that LeBron James makes it back to the final, and Iggy's there, oh shit, here we go again. And that's, I want to see that again, man, because they're both the same age, both at the same level in their career, and I can see LeBron vanquishing Iggy, but at the same time I can see Iggy like ensnaring him, man, and then everyone just goes, oh my god, like LeBron struggled, but at the same time I can see just like Iguodala out of here, or he gets injured or something. Touch wood, hopefully he doesn't get injured. But looking down the list of this Lakers team, so in the playoffs, 15 games, I think they both played the same amount of games. 12-3 is their record for both. 432 points for Davis, 401 points for James, and then Kuzma, the third highest scorer, 158, and then Paul Caldwell-Pope 148, Danny Green 122 for the entire playoffs. That's scary, man. That's a pretty scary drop. And then Kyle Kuzma has the third most amount of points. It's a bit scary. And if you look at the Heat, it's Dragic 313, Butler 310, Adebayo 277, Hero 247, Crowder 185, Robertson 170. Like that's a nice spread, like you said. I think it's a nice spread. That's going to be a worry, man, if these role guys versus role guys, it goes wrong for the Lakers. I can see it. Maybe, the Heat, the moment's too big for these Heat role guys. Like, I can see that, but at the same time, I can also see,
I see no fear. I see Eric Spoelstra just saying to him, there's no fear. There's no expectations on, this is the first time, I think, a 4th seed or a 3rd seed?
Fourth seed.
No, they were third. A third seed has made. They were third. Third seed has made the championship in a very long time. So there's no, the young. It's a young core of guys.
1, 2, 3, 4. They were fifth seed actually.
Fifth seed.
Yeah, I was thinking Boston was third.
Yeah, Boston was
and
third.
It didn't register in my head like to flip it and just go no,
Yeah.
they were fifth.
Yeah, Philly was sixth. Yeah, fifth seed. It's something.
So yeah, I think that's what you're right. That's the first time in a while the fifth seeds made it.
There's no pressure. All the pressure is on the Lakers.
Yeah.
This is LeBron's legacy. This is, potentially what keeps or stops Anthony Davis from staying. This is what it's been to, the whole Kobe thing.
Yeah.
It's theirs to lose, and it's Miami's to just, take.
Yeah, just come in. That was my second point is Jimmy's crew versus LeBron's crew. Like I feel like Jimmy's crew is better, like a better mix of guys than LeBron's.
Quicker.
It's got wrinkles too. Like I don't see this Lakers team and I just go, you know what? They've got these wrinkles here. They can run pick and roll here. They can swing it. They can do this and that. They can go to this guy to score. They can go to that guy to score. Like feel like it's just LeBron's got to put this team on his back, or Davis is kind of, they throw it in the post. And the systems that they have are very kind of LeBron or Davis, and then Rondo. And then what Miami has, like they've got heaps of different things they can go to. And shooters that can just shoot, let it fly too, which I don't know if the Lakers do.
No. Danny Green has been so bad.
Oh, he's been awful. Like worryingly bad too, like athletically. A couple of times I watched him run up court and just look like he was like a Raptor man, like Dirk styles, like struggling to run up the court. And I was like, holy shit. But at the same time, he's got championship pedigree too. He won a championship with the Spurs, and he won with the Raptors last
year. Yeah, championship. It feels a little bit like Dad's Army.
It does a little bit. And Davis, like we should talk about Davis, like how alpha really. I don't know if he I don't look at him and just go, you know what, finals is going to bring out the best of this guy. Like it brought the best out of Durant, it brought the best out of Curry and the Golden State guys. Like I don't look at Davis and go like, the bright light's going to bring the best out of this guy.
I don't know, man. This is his first championship. I suppose that's what you aspire to as a basketball player. You got to step up sometime and take it by the balls.
We'll have to wait and see. At the same time, like on the flip side, do they have enough to combat Anthony Davis, the Heat?
I don't. That's the worrying part.
That's like a huge marker in this series is just like, how well is Adebayo going to do in this? Like that's the thing to watch in this series. Like you just like Davis versus Adebayo. This is going to be interesting, and I can see Adebayo playing really well. At the same time, I can see like, the moment was just like Anthony Davis is just better than him, and he's going to struggle at the same time.
Yeah, I think that might be it. But I think that you can throw Olenek's a big enough body that you can throw at him for some cheap minutes just to keep the pressure on him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, some cheap fouls here, some gooning. Olenek, get in there. Davis hasn't shot a lot from outside very well, and so in the zone, it's going to leave little room for him to I would almost dare these Lakers to shoot from the outside. Most of their points have come from inside the paint, getting to the hoop. I think a zone will work that well and funnel them into like Iggy, Butler, and Adebayo. LeBron hasn't shot particularly well in stretches. Anthony Davis hasn't shot particularly well in stretches. KCP's been shit. Danny Green's been woeful. Kuzma has been okay in stretches. And then, you're going to their bench and none of them can shoot. I play zone against the Lakers this whole series. It stops LeBron's lanes, stops Anthony Davis getting to the rim, forces him to shoot in the open court. That's a day on or day off. I don't know. And I think that Miami are much better at getting system points.
I don't know about the zone aspect of it. Like, I feel like LeBron's going to pick that apart.
I don't know, man. Like,
but at the same time, I don't know. Yeah.
Downhill, you can pick a zone apart if they're not set. But I think the Lakers also get too set into plays and wait for LeBron to kind of set it up. And I think that getting into a zone allows you to collapse the lane enough to just get in his way and make him finish in traffic. And that's very tiring. That's super tiring.
Mm.
It's just continuously finishing traffic, you know.
And that was one of the things the Warriors did with him. They were just like, sure, like have 3 or 4 drives to the hoop now, LeBron. Okay, we're going to play fast now. And that was where he was kind of struggling. Like they would let him drive to the hoop 3 or 4 times into Draymond and Iguodala. And you could tell it was like just took the wind out of him. And then they would just go, now we're going to play real fast. And that's what I would be interested to see what Spo does. If they go, you know, one-on-one, E can defend LeBron. And then we'll just ratchet up the speed and see if this team can stay with us, especially in game 1 where they just ratchet up the speed and see what happens. And I worry, man, that LeBron doesn't have the juice. Like, beware the making that statement. You know what I mean? Obviously, he showed us at the end of that Denver series.
I think that there may be some juice conserved for the first couple of games. My only option is, or my only hesitancy in saying juice is if this goes to game 7. What do they really have in the tank? They've played a lot of minutes. They've scored a lot of points. They've looked tired in stretches. They don't have a great bench. What happens when, it's the finals and the Lakers haven't scored in 4 minutes? All right, LeBron, you got to play 40 minutes this game. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're going to need, because the Heat can score at any time and they can score fast in runs. So what do you do in that aspect?
It's going to be a good series, man. Holy shit.
Well, we should announce that we're going to be podcasting after every game.
Yeah.
So we're going to be going the same day live, talking about the game. This is the first time we've done this, I think.
So are we going to go live, or we're just going to record them live?
We'll record them live.
Yeah, so we won't actually broadcast them live. We'll just record them and then release
just record
them.
Live. Yeah,
because I'll be working and I'll probably get interrupted, but yeah.
Correct.
But yeah, that first game starts tomorrow. Man, it's going to be there's such a fascinating series. Really, the first time in 5 years that it hasn't just been like, you know, one team's going to win this and the other, like one of these teams is way better coached than the other.
I generally have no idea. I think it'll go deep into game 6 or 7, but I'm going to pick the Heat just because I think that they're better coached. It's not on tomorrow. It's on Thursday morning our time.
Oh, sorry, Wednesday in the. Is it?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yes, it starts tomorrow.
Thursday.
That hurts,
Thursday,
man. I was hoping
that
means a whole day tomorrow of not having anything to watch.
No football, nothing.
But then again, I guess they get an extra day. Wednesday, Thursday, yeah. I guess they get an extra day. Which helps the Lakers. I've got like two feelings about this. Like, Miami stunned the Lakers to go 0-2, like, you know, to go 2-0 up in the series. What's LeBron, like, what's the Lakers going to do? They have a bit of a hissy fit, and then you get, oh, look, sus 2-2 again, and it goes 7. But at the same time, like, I got this feeling of just like, oh, look, the Lakers just destroyed them. You know, they weren't ready yet. I got this, I got both feelings.
Yeah, I don't have the Lakers destroyed feeling. I've got the feeling of Miami going up maybe 1-0, 2-1, and then it getting a bit sus. Look, the NBA needs 7 games really to talk. You know, the viewership's down 40%, 7%. America's in turmoil. They need a lot of people watching this, and they need it to go for as many games as it possibly can.
It doesn't. I don't feel like it's got 7 games grinded out.
I think it's got 6. I got 6 games.
If the Heat find something in this series, like that allows them to just score quickly, like I think they can run them out in a couple of games. Like I don't have it like that. Heat Celtics series could have gone 7 games. Like it was all back and forth, and it was all like down by 7, ooh, up by 5, down by 7, ooh, up by 5. Like, oh no, like, you know, and crazy plays here and there. I don't know. I don't feel like this game has got that in it. I feel like one of these teams is going to win each game pretty handily.
We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll be back. Yeah, whatever.
Thursday
day.
Thursday night Australia time.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
It's like Wednesday late for the US.
Wednesday. Yeah, US.
And so we'll do the wash up of each game. It's going to be a fantastic series, and as always, remember to like and subscribe. Spotify, YouTube, on iTunes, Podcast Addict. and SoundCloud. Aussie's taking over the NBA, and we will see you guys on Thursday.
See ya.